everyone. My name is Victoria Young, and I'd like to call this meeting to order. With deep gratitude and respect, we are honored to be learning and unlearning on the ancestral and unceded lands of the Homukwim, Skohomishokomeo, and Tsleil-Waututh. This meeting is being broadcast live. Both the audio and video recordings will be accessible after the meeting ends. This board has a strong commitment to ethical conduct. It is our collective responsibility to ensure our meetings are conducted in a safe and respectful manner. As a Board of Education for a school district, it's important we model the behavior we expect of students in our schools. There's currently a link provided on our website for questions to be submitted for the public question period, which is item 11 on tonight's agenda. The link will remain active until following our committee reports. Welcome to our first public board meeting of 2025-2026 school year. Extremely welcome, a special welcome to Langara College journalism students who are joining us in the audience tonight. Give us a wave. Thank you. I hope everyone had an opportunity to recharge over the summer break, and thank you to all of our staff, teachers, administrators, support staff who've been preparing since late August to help students settle into the routines of the new school year. As we mark the start of a new year and a busy board agenda, I'd like to recognize an important observance. Yesterday was National Day for Truth and Reconciliation, a time to reflect on the legacy of residential schools and the ongoing journey towards reconciliation. The day honors survivors, their families, communities. The Truth and Reconciliation Commission's call to action reminds us of the vital role K-12 education plays in advancing reconciliation. As a school board, we are committed to ensuring that truth is not just acknowledged, but taught, and that reconciliation is not just spoken, but lived. As a learning organization, our commitment to reconciliation is ongoing. We strive to embed this in everything that we do, every day, in every classroom, and in every decision. I want to thank everyone for their thought and care as we continue our path on the reconciliation journey. As we look towards the agenda for this evening, I'd like to add a reminder to those joining us here in the boardroom and tuning in online. With the continued work on board policies 7 and 8 this year, there are a few important updates to our meeting schedule in place this year. Regular public board meetings will now take place on Wednesdays, previously Mondays. Agendas for these meetings will be published on the Wednesday prior to each meeting. So we'll have a whole week with the agenda beforehand for preparation, and regular public delegation board meetings will take place on the Monday of the same week as the regular public board meeting. On behalf of the board, I'd like to express our appreciation for your continued support and engagement, because your engagement helps us inform the decisions that we make here at the board. For the meeting tonight, staff and trustees are in person in the boardroom at the Education Center. I'm the board chair, and I'd like to welcome Superintendent McGregor, Secretary Treasurer Flavia Coughlin, and my fellow trustees. I'll ask to introduce themselves, starting with Trustee Zhang.
Josh Zhang, trustee.
Susie Ma, trustee.
Christopher Richardson, trustee.
Trustee Reddy, she, her.
Alfred Chin, trustee.
Preeti Freethcourt, trustee. Lois Chan Petley, trustee.
Freddie Zhang, student trustee.
Janet Fraser, trustee.
Thank you. I would like to welcome our student trustee-elect, Freddie Zhang, and we will have our official swearing-in ceremony for our student trustee under item number 4 today on the agenda. Before we proceed, I'd kindly ask that everyone put their cell phones away or on silent to ensure we focus on the discussions at hand. Thank you very much for your cooperation. We'll move to approval of the agenda.
Chair,
Trustee Ma.
I have a question. It's kind of a point of order. So I remember this is the beginning of the school year. You talked about if people had questions watching, they could submit them online. Is that correct?
Correct.
And what about if there are people in the gallery that would like to submit a question for this evening? What is that process?
Great question. They can do it through their digital devices, or if there is if they'd like to, I guess, write it down, perhaps we could get some, is there staff? Can we get some paper, perhaps? Okay. As that is, we haven't organized that for tonight, then I'm going to invite everyone to go to our website. And if there are issues with the link, then perhaps there's someone who can help with that. Otherwise, the link is currently accessible on our website. Yes, Trustee Ma.
So for the next meeting, we will have some sort of a form or a paper where people can write the question down, and then they would submit it to you, or would they hand it over to somebody on staff?
We ask that they do it online through our through submitting through our online portal.
So my question is, what if a person doesn't have a device with them? How are they going to do that?
It's a great question.
Because I'm just thinking about accessibility, that some people may not have access to the internet, even though there is guest internet. We would have to walk people through how they could do that if they're present in the room. And I'm worried, right? If people want to ask a question, they don't have their device or they don't have a device. We want to promote that accessibility.
Trustee Ma, I think that's a great takeaway, and I think that we can work on improving our accessibility through. We can improve our accessibility, and we'll take that away. I think that's a good point. Thank you. Okay, so I move that the agenda be approved as presented. Is there a seconder? Trustee Zhang? If there are no objections by trustees, we'll approve by consensus. Okay, thank you very much. No objections. Item number 3, adoption of minutes. Meeting of June the 23rd, 2025. Is there a mover and seconder? Trustee Fraser and Trustee Chen, any comments or questions about the minutes? Okay, if there are no objections, we'll adopt the minutes of June the 23rd, 2025. Okay, thank you. Matters arising. Are there any matters arising? Okay, seeing none, we'll now ask our student trustee-elect, Freddie Zhang, to come to the front. With the Secretary Treasurer Coughlin to conduct the Student Trustee Declaration of Office ceremony.
Thank you. So repeat after me. I, Freddie Zhang, do solemnly affirm that
I, Freddie Zhang, do solemnly affirm that
I am qualified to hold office as student trustee in the Vancouver School District
I am qualified to hold office as a student trustee in the Vancouver School District
and meet all the qualification requirements set out in the student trustee policy of the Vancouver Board of Education Policy Handbook, Policy 18.
and meet all of the qualification requirements set out in the student trustee policy of the Vancouver Board of Education Policy Handbook, Policy 18.
I will abide by the School Act and policies of the Vancouver Board of Education
I will abide by the School Act and policies of the Vancouver Board of Education,
and I will faithfully perform the duties of my office
and I will faithfully perform the duties of my office
and will not allow any private interest to influence my conduct in public matters
and will not allow any private interest to influence my conduct in public matters.
I will comply with the requirements of the Student Trustee Conflict of Interest Guidelines
I will comply with the requirements of the Student Trustee Conflict of Interest Guidelines
as set out in the Student Trustee Vancouver Board of Education Policy 18 Appendix A.
as set out in the Student Trustee Vancouver Board of Education Policy 8 Appendix A.
Thank you. We will now sign the oath of office. Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you, Secretary Treasurer Coughlin, and welcome Freddie Zhang as the student trustee for the 2025-2026 school year. Freddie, I will now ask that you present the student trustee report.
Hello everyone, my name is Freddie Zhang and I'm a grade 11 student at Prince of Wales Secondary. I'm honored to serve as the new student trustee for the Vancouver School Board this year. I've been involved with the Vancouver District Student Council, or VDSC, since grade 8, and have also participated in student government at my school and through the City of Vancouver's Children, Youth, and Families Advisory Committee. These experiences have helped me understand how student voices can contribute meaningfully to decision-making when we focus on practical solutions and consistent communication. I look forward to a year of collaboration where different perspectives can come together to advance shared goals. As a student trustee, my goal is to make students feel heard and represented in board discussions. I'll be working with VDSC to gather input from students across the district, especially those who might not usually speak up. Both VDSC and the position of student trustee serve as a bridge between students' lived experiences and the board's policymaking process. In the year ahead, I want to strengthen that bridge by actively seeking out voices that often go unheard, from the quiet student in the back of the classroom to the newcomer still finding their way. Whether it's through surveys, school visits, or informal conversations, I want to make it easier for students to share their ideas. On that note, I would like to provide a brief update from VDSC. This year, the VDSC Senior Executive Team created an introductory video that outlines who we are and what we do. This first step helps students know that a platform for their voices not only exists, but is active and ready to listen. VDSC held its first general meeting last week with student representatives from all 18 secondary schools, and we're currently preparing for our junior executive elections later in October. I'll share more updates about our initiatives with the board as they develop. Thank you to the board and to my peers at VDSC for the opportunity to take on this role. It's truly a pleasure to be here, and I am excited to listen, to learn, and to serve in this role. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm going to look to my colleagues on the board if there are any questions for Freddie or comments. All right, seeing none, thank you again. We look forward to working with you in the upcoming year. I'll now ask Superintendent McGregor to introduce the superintendent's update.
Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the first public board meeting of the school year. I am very pleased to be here as we begin another year of learning and collaboration. And next slide, please. As many of you know, we have a tradition at the beginning of the superintendent's highlights to provide a superintendent's tribute recognition. So this evening, it is with great pride and admiration that we recognize Jeff Permain for his continued leadership and unwavering commitment for creating inclusive and culturally responsive learning environments across the Vancouver School Board. Since joining the VSB in 1989, Jeff has brought his vision, integrity, and hands-on expertise to every role he's held. As our current ground supervisor, Jeff plays a pivotal role in shaping the outdoor spaces that support student learning, wellness, and community connection. His work goes far beyond maintenance as it reflects a deep understanding of how physical environments can foster equity, inclusion, and belonging. Jeff has been a passionate advocate for accessibility on our school grounds. His collaborative design process and leadership have helped transform playgrounds and outdoor learning spaces into environments where students of all abilities can thrive. Jeff has championed the integration of adaptive equipment, sensory pathways, communication boards, and quiet zones, ensuring that every child can experience the joy of play and exploration. Jeff has also demonstrated meaningful support for Indigenous education initiatives within the district. His leadership was instrumental in the success of the VSB Legacy Carving Project at the VSB Education Center, where he oversaw the delivery and placement of a 500-year-old red cedar tree for the Squamish Okameo Nation, the Squamish Nation carvers, to begin their work. This event marked a significant moment in our district's journey towards reconciliation, and you can see that as you enter the Education Center every single day. His dedication to service, his responsiveness to community needs, and his thoughtful stewardship of our public-facing spaces make him an invaluable part of the VSB, and we'd like to congratulate you. If you'd like to join me at the front. I'm going to give Jeff an opportunity to share a few words, and then I'm going to invite his fan club that's here this evening to come up for some photos. So I'll pass this over to you.
Thank you. First of all, I'd like to thank the Vancouver School Board for this honor. It's not something I'm really comfortable dealing with. I prefer to be at the back. But I would just like to say that, you know, in the almost 40 years that I've been an employee of the Vancouver School Board, I am more grounded, more educated. You know, my job has been to help students learn, but at the same time, I have learned so much about Indigenous education, Indigenous culture, accessibility of students. I look back of how I was and what my thought process was 10 years ago, and it's completely different. And that is partly because of this organization that really wants people to learn, especially if you're a staff member or anybody else. So I just want to thank the district for that too. Thank you.
Thank you. So you're going to hold this. And I wasn't joking. Everybody who's here this evening to support Jeff, please come on up because we're going to get some photos because he doesn't do this alone. There you go. For those at home, just bear with us for a few minutes. Everybody who's here, please join us. I do mean it. Congratulations, Jeff, and I'm just going to get myself back to my seat to continue the superintendent's highlights. Have a great evening, everybody. Thank you for that. Very great opportunity to recognize amazing things happening across VSB. So if we can move to the next slide. Although we're in October now, back to school updates are really important. So as we begin the month of October, students and staff have been settling into their classrooms and routines. Although it doesn't seem very long ago, I wanted to acknowledge a few things that occurred during the summer break. With students out of school, the facilities team was hard at work sanding and refinishing gymnasium floors, upgrading EV chargers, expanding bike and scooter infrastructure, enhancing accessibility at various locations, improving fences and drainage at many sites, as well as adding and rejuvenating outdoor learning spaces. Thanks to the work done also over the summer, students at Henry Hudson Elementary are now enjoying their new playground, pictured here on the left. This accessible playground was jointly funded by the Hudson PAC and through funds received for the Hudson Seismic Project. And I know they were very excited. You can see some the photo there of the playground, very excited to finally have access to that playground. In August, also, students and staff and trustees participated in Vancouver's annual Pride Parade. You can see an image on the screen. Thank you to Chair Young, Trustee Fraser, and Trustee Richardson, who attended on behalf of the board, and a whole variety of staff and families. Our presence at the parade demonstrates our deep commitment to creating and maintaining inclusive environments for all students and staff, regardless of sexual orientation or gender identity. As we head into the fall, our learning and information technology team is launching quiet zones, ensuring that every child can experience the joy of play and exploration. Oh, sorry, I've got the wrong slides here, sorry. As we head into the fall, our learning and information technology team is launching, a cybersecurity awareness month campaign for October. This campaign is directed at all staff and students. Posters are being sent to all schools, and we'll also be updating the VSB Hub with cybersecurity resources for students and staff. That does include a video, and there is a parent information session that we're going to be sharing out as well. The importance of cybersecurity in the digital world that we exist in. We can move to the next slide, please. We've been continuing to reach out to families through our podcast After the Bell. September's episode covered how parents can support their children's learning journeys at home. We also hosted a live podcast event around the topic of the Foundational Skills Assessment, or FSA. This discussion provided clear information about the FSA, common misconceptions, and what parents and caregivers can do to help their children better understand the assessment. October's two-part episode will be about helping families prepare for the big leap after graduation to post-secondary. The episode will feature admissions staff from BCIT, UBC, SFU, Capilano University, and Langara, who will answer common questions about the application process, financial aid, and how to bridge the gap between secondary and post-secondary education. We're very thrilled to offer that opportunity, and that came back in feedback from many students and families last year. Last spring, the board directed staff to create a single, easily accessible webpage for families to engage with the district on student, school, or board-related matters. This new family and community information page is now available under the Our District tab on the VSB homepage and was shared with all families in the Welcome Back communication. You should also keep an eye out for a year-end report from VSB Voices. VSB Voices is a way for volunteer participants to share their thoughts about various education-related topics. The report will be issued later this month and summarizes the engagements that happened over the past year. We can move to the next slide, please. Student leadership. Wanted to mention that applications are open for the Student Leadership Fund. Now in its third year, the Student Leadership Fund was created to support student-led initiatives that foster leadership, community building, and creativity across VSB schools. Applications are open for both elementary and secondary students. And I know that the VDSC team is very excited about supporting these applications. I know in June, a number of us had a chance to attend and listen to some of the leadership projects that were presented and had really positive impacts in school communities. So we're looking to hear more about this year's round of projects that are being funded. Following the theme of student engagement, students and staff have also been co-developing a student agency framework that promotes shared decision-making. This intentional work allows students to be heard and play a central role in shaping their own educational experiences. So we're looking forward to a lot more work alongside the students across VSB as that continues. And I think the last slide of the evening for my superintendent's highlights. So many of the people in the room tonight are wearing orange shirts or wearing orange. And students and educators across VSB marked Orange Shirt Day and National Day for Truth and Reconciliation with meaningful learning, reflection, and creative expression rooted in Indigenous principles and histories. And that's been happening over the last week. From community walks and collaborative art in elementary schools to workshops and cultural sharing by Indigenous-led organizations in secondary schools, the district embraced shared responsibility in the ongoing journey towards truth and reconciliation. These efforts align with the Call to Action 62, which call for age-appropriate curriculum on residential schools and Indigenous history. Pictured above is an image from Killarney Secondary's Reconciliation Weaving Project. And on each piece, and it's hard to see on the screen, but on each piece of fabric that is being woven together, students have written messages of hope. So if you have an opportunity to see that in person, it is a really wondrous act of reconciliation. I know here on Friday, we had our own opportunities as staff at the Education Center to continue our own learning by listening to the stories of our team members and the community. So with that, Chair, that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions for the superintendent? All right, thank you, Superintendent McGregor. I look forward to seeing what this year brings, especially the student leadership. Okay, moving on to number 6 on tonight's agenda, we have committee reports. And first up, we have the education plan, and I will look to Trustee Chen to move receipt of the report.
Yes. Yes, Chair. It's only under matter rising.
Do you move receipt of the September 10th, 2025 Education Plan Committee as in the agenda?
Yes.
Thank you. Is there a seconder? Trustee Richardson, thank you. Are there any questions about the report? For those who are following, it begins on page 14 of 181 of our agenda. Trustee Ma, did you have your hand up?
There's going to be an opportunity when it is going to be debated, right? Matters rising, or are we dealing with the recommendation, or is it just the report?
This is just to receive.
Thank you.
Okay, seeing none. Okay, if there are no questions, those in favor of, actually, if there are no objections, we'll just move receipt. Okay, that's great. Let's go to matters arising. Trustee Chen.
Yes, Chair. Under matter risings, we have 2 items for approval. First, we have a recommendation from the Education Plan Committee regarding the framework for enhancing student learning, FESL annual report. I will move that the board approve the VSB framework for enhancing student learning annual report 2024 to 2025 for submission to the Ministry of Education and Childcare by October 1st, 2025.
Seconded by Trustee Friedcoat. Thank you. Okay, we'll move to discussion. Trustee Ma, is this the topic you'd like to comment on or discuss at this point, or is it the next matter, right?
It's this on this recommendation,
You,
this motion, I should say.
you have the floor.
Thank you very much. So I'd just like to thank the staff who worked on this report. It's very meaty, very, very heavy, very detailed. There's a lot of good things in the actual framework itself, looking at starting on page 49 of 181, looking at all the strategies, the areas for growth, strategy effectiveness, and the adjustments and adaptations. It's very concise and very well written. My only comment about that is that there is mention in several places where teachers and SSAs and other employees would be involved in mandatory district training. So for example, in your agenda package on page 53 of 181, there's a mention of mandatory district training. Another example is professional development in real world math instruction, which is in your package, page 55 of 181. And another example is on page 60 of 181, it talks about multi-tiered systems of support. And all of that work falls on our teachers, on our educators, and also on our SSAs to undertake all of that. And my concern, and I raised this at the actual education plan meeting, was I asked if there was any extra money to cover this in the budget, like the extra training, the mandatory district training. Would this training take place with release time? I was told no, it would be during their work time. And I have concerns about that because we know how stressed our teachers and our SSAs and our staff and our administrators are in schools too, right? And that this just seems to me like such a big ask, continued ask on our employees to forward all of these strategies. And that's one of the concerns I have about this. It's too bad that we didn't put the FSL in place prior to our budget making process for this year, because if we had done that, maybe we could have identified areas where we could have put additional funding into these areas. And I would hope that going forward for the trustees, for when we set our annual budget for next year, that we take some of these initiatives into account when we're going to be putting together the budget for next year, because we can't just keep asking people to do more with the same funding envelope. It's really impossible, and it's very stressful on people. So it just seems to me like it's kind of backwards that the ministry is asking for this now, whereas maybe they should have been asking for it way in advance so we could prepare for it in our budget process. But I will be supporting this. Okay, I'll ask another question afterwards. Thanks.
Trustee Reddy.
Yeah, thanks. I just wanted to comment. I know that we see this report every year, and now it's been several years that I've seen this FESL report come through. Similar to what Trustee Ma is sharing, I think some of the frustration with this report is that it's such a narrow view into the learning context that we're providing for kids, and the employment context that we provide for teachers and support staff in the district. I think what's particularly concerning, and I wanted to raise this here, is how low the literacy and numeracy rates are for, especially at the grade 4 level, and especially for Indigenous identifying students and students with disabilities and diverse abilities, and just recognizing like what a system failure that is towards those kids. And I don't unfortunately see budget decisions and other decisions affect changes specifically for groups that we're seeing be faced with system failure. So I'd like to keep that in mind as we move forward in the next year. The second thing I wanted to ask is, if this report will be accompanied with a letter to the Ministry of Education and Childcare to highlight some of these specific trends we're seeing. I know it's not just isolated to our district decisions, but recognizing some of the surrounding context of ongoing racism, discrimination, and food insecurity that may be impacting learning as well. So just want to confirm that would we be including some kind of letter, especially from an advocacy point of view, to highlight this particular report that shows a declining and worsening trend in our district?
Trustee Reddy, I think that's actually a great topic for our advocacy committee, which will be meeting next week, I believe. Looking to Trustee Mon Richardson, yes. And so that actually can be added to the agenda by sending it to the email that was sent to all trustees as well, if that is something you would like to be us to discuss. Yeah, go ahead.
Thanks, Chair. Yeah, I just was looking for staff to respond to my question about whether or not a letter would be sent with this report that we're currently discussing to the ministry to highlight the particular trends that are showing up.
Superintendent?
So the requirement is that we support the exact report that we have shared with you this evening. It was a template from the ministry that we are required to follow, and we will be submitting it. It's due today. If it receives approval here at the board meeting. I think the conversation around advocacy is a good one. This is the framework that is being provided provincially that every school district must follow exactly. The data and the trends actually were provided to us. The data was provided in a template from the ministry in the exact form that you see. And the purpose, my understanding was that so the reports looked quite consistent across the province so that patterns and trends could be seen. Thank you.
Just for those who are paying attention or have an investment, our advocacy subcommittee is actually October 8th, which is next Wednesday. Trustee Richardson.
Thank you, Chair. I too would like to compliment staff and the committee that has committees and all the people that have been involved in this. I think that it's important that we as a district operate on evidence-based initiatives, and this is the fundamental document that allows us as trustees to understand where allocation should be. Comments have been made that in terms of funding and allocation, and certainly this document is, or this format of a report has been with us for several years, and in fact requires or suggests that we should be allocating, and I think staff have in terms of literacy, and now in terms of this document clearly indicates in terms of numeracy to identify those gaps and those areas of improvement that we can have. And I think we are trying to do that as much as we can. We may want to leave it, I may want to leave it until we talk about the financial statements. This is a troublesome time in terms of funding. And but let me talk about that when we talk about funding. I guess one note that I have is that we are looking at priority learners in this document. This district did expand the requirement in terms of looking at diverse and those students with disabilities and diverse abilities several years ago in terms of adding them to what had been Indigenous students. And I guess my only thought is, and I've talked to staff, is that we now aggregate all 12 categories of students with designations in terms of numbers and look at that in terms of their success and gaps, and that we may want to, through the advocacy committee and other avenues, try to have that disaggregated so that those 12 categories, we understand movement within those categories in these areas. And I appreciate, as we heard at a DPAC presentation last week, that there may in fact be some sensitivities in terms of things like FSA in terms of giving us that data, but it's important that we as trustees have the evidence-based information so that we can make allocations or suggestions in terms of future budgets. Thank you.
Trustee Fraser.
Thank you, Chair. And while this Framework for Enhancing Student Learning report was not available for the budget in the spring, the previous one was available, and I think that was certainly I looked at that carefully in consideration of the budget. And one of the things we did do was to increase the SSA staffing by 38 FTE for this current year, which is 31 ongoing and 7 one-time. So I agree that the numbers, the results we're seeing for students with diverse abilities and disabilities are not what we want. And I do think that that action in the budget was a response to what we saw in last year's annual report.
Trustee Ma, did you have another one?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
So the other comment that I would make about the FESL is that looking at the strategy effectiveness, we have strategies and we have actions. However, we don't have any way of assessment. So there's really no metric in the template to say, how will we know when we achieve these targets? I guess the only way we would know is looking at those FSA and the data that's supplied by the ministry a year later. So I guess my question is, how do we know how well we're doing on this and not have to wait a whole year and continue to monitor and pivot if we need to?
Associate Superintendent Maureen. Maureen McCrae Stanger, when the microphone works.
Thank you, through the chair. Thank you for the question. Trustee Ma, can you repeat it one more time for me, just because I was having a tech problem there?
So I was talking about the strategies, and then under adjustments and adaptations, that would be the actions. And I stated that I didn't understand, we don't seem to have metrics. How are we going to be able to assess how well we are doing with those actions? And would we be able to pivot? Like, what would be the pivot points if we were not being as effective in those strategies and those actions?
Thank you, through the chair. So yes, we are expected to use the data from the Ministry of Education and Childcare that are in the FESL report on a yearly basis. And really it's that continuous cycle of improvement. So we are looking at data as it becomes available throughout the school year and then adding it into the FESL report and making adjustments as we go along. So that is part of our requirement for that. And yes, we're looking at things like improvements in literacy and numeracy based on FSA, the graduation assessments, student learning survey data. Those really are the metrics for us within the documentation and the framework requirements within the district. We also know that we have local data and we have school-based data that we use as well to track those successes. And sometimes it's qualitative data and not just quantitative data. And that is all part of our process as we work towards those goals for our students. But definitely the data measures from the ministry are what guides the process and the work.
Thank you. Trustee Ma, follow up?
Yes. So in terms of trustees and hearing about how well we're doing on this, how often would we get updates in terms of the effectiveness and how well these actions are taking place?
Thank you, through the chair. So I think through our education plan committee, we've been really focusing on FESL as the key measurements there. We will be reporting out on literacy screeners and interventions at our next education plan committee, so I encourage your attendance. We also have our FESL advisory committee, which met 4 times last year, and we actually worked together as the data became available to share those results live as they came out from the ministry and talk about the interventions and the measurements we could take at those points in time.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any other questions from trustees? Okay, thank you again to staff. All those in favor of the motion that is on the screen. Okay, unanimous support. Thank you. Trustee Chin, are there any other matters arising?
Yes, we have another recommendation from the Education Plan Committee regarding school learning plans. I will move that the board, in accordance with section 8.3, bracket 1 of the School Act, approve the school learning plans and direct the superintendent of schools to make the school learning plans available to parents or guardians of students attending each school in the Vancouver School District.
Is there a seconder? Trustee Richardson. Okay, discussion, comments, questions? Seeing none. Oh, Trustee Fraser.
I'll just say, each of us is trustee liaison to different families of schools. So I went in and looked at the schools in my families of schools. And what I see is that the education plan is playing out in the schools. I see it in the way that they create the plans. It's actually landing on the ground and not just something that we talk about in the boardroom. And it was really interesting to see the different approaches in different schools within the common themes of the education plan and how they're responding to their individual communities. So I just want to thank all the teachers and the staff at the schools who obviously come together to work on these school plans and then work with the administrator in putting them forward so that they're available for the whole school community, particularly the parents. So I just appreciate that there's a huge amount of work that's gone behind this one small motion. Well, it's not a small motion, but short motion that's before us this evening.
Thank you, Trustee Fraser. Okay. Seeing no other discussion, I'll ask those in favor of the motion that is on the screen. Okay, it passes unanimously. Thank you. We'll move to Audit Committee. I chaired the September 10th Audit Committee meeting in Trustee Zhang's absence, and I'll now present the matters arising from this meeting. Audited financial statements, June the 3rd, 2025. I move that the board approve the audited financial statements of School District Number 39, Vancouver, for the year ended June the 30th, 2025. Is there a seconder? Trustee Friedcote, any discussion? Okay, seeing none. All those in favor? Okay, it passes unanimously. Next, item 6.3, Finance and Personnel Committee. I'll ask Chair of the committee, Trustee Fraser, to move receipt of the report.
Thank you, Chair. And I move that the report of the September 17th, 2025 meeting be received.
Is there a seconder? Trustee Friedcote, any questions about the report? Okay, seeing none, if there are no objections, we will receive report by consensus. Okay, thank you. Matters arising. Trustee Fraser?
There are no matters arising.
Thank you very much. Okay, I'm going to look to Trustee Friedcote now. The final committee report is from the Facilities Planning Committee.
Thank you, Chair. I move receipt of the report on September 17, 2025.
Is there a seconder? Trustee Ma. Questions? Seeing no questions on the report, if there are no objections, we'll receive the report by consensus. Thank you very much. Okay, matters arising.
Yes, Chair. Under matter arising, we have one item for approval. We have a recommendation from the Facilities Planning Committee regarding the 2026-2027 minor capital plan for submission. I'll move that the board approve the 2026-2027 minor capital plan for submission to the Ministry of Infrastructure.
Seconded by Trustee Fraser. Any discussion? Okay, I do just want to say that a lot of work goes into these, and I have the privilege of attending all these committees. So again, thank you to how much work goes in to all the staff here. All those in Oh, Trustee Fraser, go ahead.
So I'm curious, you know, there we have listings in each of the categories for the most urgent projects. And I'm curious about how we land on the most urgent projects in the different categories. Do we have like a number that are like a small number, like 3 or 4, that are clearly much more urgent than the others? Or is there like a suite of like 50 that are very, very close in urgency, and we only have the ability to put forward a certain number, and that's what, obviously that's what we have to do. We have to follow the ministry's plans. I'm just curious about where we land on that, because clearly we've got a list that's probably thousands of items long. I'm just curious.
Secretary Treasurer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. In the report, we do outline the prioritization criteria that we use for determining which projects are being put forward as part of the capital plan. The ministry does have specific limits that they include for the different funding envelopes. I'll just give an example for the playground equipment category. There's a maximum of 3 projects that can be submitted. In other categories, there will be a maximum of 5. So there's a category where last year we received funding for phase 1 of a project. So there, naturally, this year we have prioritized as our top priority phase 2 of the same project. That's the Crosstown HVAC project. So definitely we could have a much longer list, but we are limited by what is permitted to be submitted in each category.
Thank you. Okay, all those in favor of the motion on the board? Okay, unanimous support. Thank you. Trustee Friedcote, any other matters arising?
None, thanks, Chair.
Okay, moving right along, our link for submitting questions is now closed. And we will now move to item 7, which is report on private session. The board authorized the board chair to report to the October 1st public board meeting, 2025 public meeting, that at the special private session of August the 27th, 2025, the board discussed a legal matter. 7.2, that at the special private session of September the 24th, 2025, the board discussed a legal matter and approved a motion for the board to direct staff to restart the public engagement process for the potential closure of Sir Guy Carleton Elementary School as set out in Board Policy 14, school closure. That at the private session, please note additional information regarding the engagement is available on our VSB website. 7.3, at the private sessions of October the 1st, 2025, the board discussed personnel, property, legal matters, that the board discussed and approved a motion to conclude the process to consider the potential declaration of the eastern portion of the Graham Bruce Community Elementary School site as surplus to the educational needs of the school district, and no further action be taken regarding its subdivision or disposal. Excuse my hiccup. We had a private meeting before this meeting, and where we didn't complete some of the work, so we're going to go back to that after this, which is where I got confused. Moving on to item 8, we have reports from trustee representatives, and I'd like to thank Trustee Fraser for submitting the Urban Indigenous Peoples Advisory Committee report held from a meeting held on May the 26th, 2025, and that is in the agenda on a page. Number 8, reports, or number 9, sorry, new business. No, number 8, report from 9, new business. We have Britannia Center Pool Building Lease Bylaw 2025, and I'll ask Secretary Treasurer Flavia Coughlin and Executive Director of Facilities Jessie Gresley Jones to present the item.
Thank you, Madam Chair. This item, the underlying legal documents have been reviewed by the board in private session. And tonight at this meeting, we are bringing for board consideration a bylaw that will allow staff to continue offering the City of Vancouver a lease that will be 10 years less a day for the pool that is located on the Britannia site. That is a site that is jointly owned and developed by the Vancouver School District and the City of Vancouver. Allowing this to continue will permit the City of Vancouver to undertake much needed maintenance of the pool that exists on the site. And we would be happy to answer any questions that trustees may have.
Trustee Fraser?
I think, reading the report, I think this is an opportunity for us to work collaboratively with the City of Vancouver so that this swimming pool can, the city will be in a position to invest in the swimming pool. It'll be available for the community members in Britannia. Obviously, I would like to see a larger renewal go forward, but unfortunately, we're not in a position. There isn't the funding available from the city to move that forward. But I do think we can collaborate in making this lease so that they can make the investment.
Trustee Ma?
I would echo Trustee Fraser's comments. I think this is long overdue, and I think if we pass this motion, it will be our signal to the City of Vancouver that we are going to allow them to make the improvements as quickly as possible, and maybe even they might even consider looking at the rink and all the other facilities that are on that site that are in desperate need of renewal.
Okay, thank you. Seeing no other questions, we'll consider the recommendation. I move that the school district number 39 Vancouver Britannia Center Pool Building Lease Bylaw 2025 be given 3 readings at this meeting. Is there a seconder? Trustee Fraser? All those in favor? Okay, it is unanimous. Thank you. That the school district number 39 Vancouver Britannia Center Pool Building Lease Bylaw 2025 be read first time the first day of October 2025, a second time the first day of October 2025, and read a third and final time passed and adopted this first day of October 2025. Is there a seconder? Trustee Richardson, thank you. All those in favor? Okay, unanimous. Thank you all. We are going to take a short recess, have a look at some of the questions that were submitted through our online portal, and then come back in 13 minutes at 10 after. Thank you. Okay, thank you. And thank you everyone for your patience as we get settled on the new school year and get things running smoothly again. We did have a few questions, so I wanted to go over them. I do want to remind, actually, I'll go right into it. There was a question submitted by a stakeholder representative and not a member who holds a different position than a member of the public. And so we do receive questions from stakeholder groups regarding items, and those are at board committee meetings where stakeholder representatives have an opportunity to ask their questions regarding these items. They actually have a standing seat at all of our committee meetings. So just as a reminder, question periods intended for members of the public. Okay, a question was submitted seeking details on how many students are currently enrolled. Sorry, I have a typo here and I'm just trying to understand it. What did I write? Okay, I'm just going to go back to the original. Excuse me while communications, could you just help me with, I'm going to skip that question. There's a little bit of a typo there, even though we just went over it. Okay. I received a question about a motion regarding board procedures and policy, one that came to us in November of last year. The motion was addressed last year or brought forward last year, and it was addressed in June based on feedback that was collected from stakeholder groups, inherent right holders at multiple policy and governance committee meetings, and trustees at board meetings. So the board considered policies 7 and 8, which are board operations and committees, and approved the creation of an ad hoc committee that will help create new draft policies based on the feedback collected. So in the interim, for the 2025-2026 school year, the board approved a revised meeting schedule to give the public more time to review agendas and register to speak. That was in direct relation to the motion that came to the board, and it is all about collecting feedback from 2 separate policy and governance committee meetings, and then us making a decision as a board. We had a question around the reliability of the FSA. And as mentioned before, the FSA is a measure developed by the Ministry of Education and Childcare, and it's used in every district across the province. So for more information on that specifically, as it is not a VSB development, it's a ministry development, we'd refer you to the Ministry of Education and Childcare website. They have lots of information on the FSA. We got a question around classroom teachers' absences. So some statistics around that, and asked around absences not filled by a substitute teacher. So I just want to remind, this is very operational and not a matter of governance. But what I can say is that we prioritize filling classroom teachers' absences every day. We received a question regarding variance between budgeted and actual expenses for educational assistance. This topic has been covered many times here, and I do want to, it was covered in Finance and Personnel Committee meeting, and it is actually included in the report of today's agenda. And it is under the financial statements discussion and analysis. So information is actually also posted on our website, but then again in the agenda tonight. I'm going to quickly go back to my question from above. Okay, question was asking for details about how many students are currently enrolled, but who are chronically absent due to a variety of reasons. And what are the follow-up procedures in place to support these students? So schools enter and track attendance data for all students and work with students and families to support regular attendance. We do have Administrative Procedures 330, student attendance, which outlines the steps that school staff will undertake to address concerning patterns or unexcused absences. So, and I just want to remind students and their families are encouraged to reach out to school administrators for more information on those supports and available to support students and their attendance records. Okay, that is the conclusion of our questions. And I do just want to remind everyone who do submit questions that those are to be submitted for the board around governance and not operations, and operational questions can easily be asked at a school level, at the teacher or principal level to those parents who are and guardians requesting information about schools. Looking to my colleagues, I would just like to say thank you for completing our first meeting of the school year. And if there are no objections, I will adjourn the meeting at 8:26 p.m. Okay, meeting is adjourned.